Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog. Today is another one of those days. Well, it's actually a twofer day. It's a day when I have to run off to an appointment pretty soon, so this is going to be kind of rushed. And number two, it's a vlog where I had something else prepared to talk about, and now I'm going to talk about something else because as you know by now, because I record these the day before you see them, the IG Inspector General report came out, the Horowitz report. So I'm going to discuss that a little bit. According to, it's almost 500 pages, the whole report. I linked to it because I have a day job and it just came out. I didn't have time to read the whole report, and I don't know if I would ever have time in a vlog to go through the whole thing, page by page, detail by detail. But there's been some pretty good summaries. Well, I'll give you the basic summary in the form of an article announcing the release of the report. I'm going to throw in a couple of my comments, and then I have comments from Attorney General Barr and from the U.S. Attorney in Connecticut, John Durham, who is conducting a criminal investigation, which is important to note actually at the outset who Horowitz is or what his function is exactly, his position. He's an inspector general, but he's an inspector general for the Justice Department. So we're basically talking about, as far as he's concerned, the Justice Department investigating itself. It's just like if you work for a company and somebody in human resources is looking into something, it's basically the human resources guy, which is not to minimize the impact of some of these things in the report. It's just to make certain that people understand that he was not allowed to subpoena anybody. He was not allowed to go outside the Justice Department. You put those two together, it means he could not compel the testimony or the appearance of anybody who was not currently working at the Justice Department. So if somebody was working in the Justice Department at the time of the events in question and has since left the Justice Department, he could not compel their testimony. Now, what that means as far as who testified, I can't tell you because I haven't read the report, but again, I linked to it. But, let me give you the headline here, the first of some headlines I'm going to give you, and then I'm going to read you some quotes, which is what the bulk of this vlog will be because this just happened, and because I don't have time for a detailed analysis, I'm just going to read you pretty much what the reporters are writing, and then just a big question that I have that I didn't see answered here. But anyways, first headline: DOJ IG report finds Russia probe wasn't politically motivated but suffered from, quote, serious performance failures, unquote. And this is where the something for everybody comes in, because he is saying that the FBI was justified in launching the investigation, that it was not politically motivated. But that is only a justification of starting the investigation. There's the matter of continuing the investigation and then how the investigation proceeded. I'm going to get to that just a little bit later, especially when I get to William Barr's comments. But let me just give you some quotes. The long-awaited report concluded that the FBI had an, quote, authorized purpose, unquote, for launching the investigation ahead of the 2016 election, contradicting President Trump and his allies who routinely cast the entire investigation as a partisan, quote, witch hunt, unquote, but nevertheless faulted the agency for including, quote, significant inaccuracies and omissions, unquote, in its application to the FISA court to surveil Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. The investigation did, however, identify, quote, at least 17 significant errors or omissions in the Carter Page FISA applications and many errors in the Woods procedures, quote, which dictate the relevant information that must be shared with the FISA court when the FBI applies for a surveillance warrant. The report confirms that the FBI relied heavily on information gathered by former British spy Christopher Steele in its FISA application to surveil Page, but neglected to inform the court that Steele gathered the intelligence while working for the research firm Fusion GPS, which had been contracted by the Clinton campaign to produce opposition research on Trump. In addition to concealing the partisan nature of Steele's findings, the FBI also failed to independently corroborate the information included in his dossier, which had largely been sourced from Russian nationals who Steele had never met with personally. The FBI also omitted from the warrant application and the 3 subsequent renewal applications certain potentially exculpatory information, including Page's denial that anyone associated with the Trump campaign was conspiring with Russia through WikiLeaks or any other channel, and his claim that he had, quote, literally never met, unquote, campaign chairman Paul Manafort, a denial that, if shared with the court, would have disrupted the prevailing theory that Manafort was the middleman between Page and Russia. And this is the big question that I wanted to see answered. Maybe it's answered in the report, but none of this earlier reporting that I've read answers that question, which is simply this. If the FBI had followed the proper procedures, the procedures that Horowitz criticized the FBI for not following, would the FISA court have granted the warrant to spy on Carter Page? That, to me, is the big question. Whether or not it was justified for the FBI to start the investigation, how far did they have a right to go? Would they have gotten the warrant had the warrant been applied for according to the proper procedures? What would the result have been of this investigation? Why would it not have stopped right there? That's my big question, or that's a few questions, and I hope I'll see them answered. Now we have comments from William Barr. Let me give you the headline first. And by the way, in case you're not aware, I link to all these articles so you can read the whole article. Anyways, headline: William Barr disagrees with IG findings, rips FBI for Russia report origins. Attorney General William Barr on Monday ripped the FBI's, quote, intrusive, unquote, investigation into President Trump's campaign after the release of the Department Watchdog's review, saying the probe was launched based on the, quote, thinnest of suspicions, unquote. Department Watchdog's review, that's the Horowitz report. That's pretty obvious, but just in case you weren't aware of that. Quote, the Inspector General's report now makes clear that the FBI launched an intrusive investigation of a U.S. presidential campaign on the thinnest of suspicions that, in my view, that's Barr's view, were insufficient to justify the steps taken, unquote, Barr said in a statement referring to Inspector General Michael Horowitz. Barr expressed frustration that the FBI continued investigating the Trump campaign even as, quote, exculpatory, unquote, evidence came to the light. Quote, it is clear that from its inception, the evidence produced by the investigation was consistently exculpatory, unquote, Barr said, Fox News reported. Quote, nevertheless, the investigation and surveillance was pushed forward for the duration of the campaign and deep into President Trump's administration, unquote. In other words, they investigated during the campaign and continued to investigate even after Trump took office, even though, as I just gave you one example, the statement from Carter Page, exculpatory information that was withheld from the FISA court, exculpatory information that should, according to Barr at least, have stopped the investigation in its tracks. There was no reason for the investigation to proceed once the existence of exculpatory information was known. And this brings us finally to the statement of the U.S. Attorney, John Durham, his response to Horowitz's report. This is important, so I'm going to read it once and I'm going to read it again with some emphasis, because this gets to what I was talking about earlier at the outset of this vlog, that Durham does have the power to subpoena. He's already, as I understand it, convened some grand juries, but he has announced that this is a criminal investigation. If it's a criminal investigation, he must have reason to believe that somebody committed a crime, which goes way beyond this Horowitz report. So let me give you the statement here. Quote, "I have the utmost respect for the mission of the Office of Inspector General and the comprehensive work that went into the report prepared by Mr. Horowitz and his staff. However, our investigation is not limited to developing information from within component parts of the Justice Department. Our investigation has included developing information from other persons and entities, both in the U.S. and outside of the U.S. Based on the evidence collected to date, and while our investigation is ongoing, last month we advised the Inspector General that we do not agree with some of the report's conclusions as to predication and how the FBI case was open," unquote. So first off, he's disagreeing with Horowitz, but he's also making an important point, and this is the part I want to emphasize. So put the quote up here with the emphases provided by me. "However, our investigation is not limited to developing information from within component parts of the Justice Department. Our investigation has included developing information from other persons and entities, both in the U.S. and outside of the U.S. That is the important point. As I said earlier, Horowitz can only talk to people within the Justice Department. He's basically a human resources guy. He is not a U.S. attorney. Horowitz could not go outside the department to follow evidence wherever it leads. And if my memory serves me right, I believe Horowitz on one occasion where he made one or more criminal referrals to the Justice Department. The point is that Durham can follow evidence wherever it leads. As we know, he went with William Barr to Italy. He traveled to Italy to investigate Joseph Mifsud, this mysterious academic who is supposed to be connected with our intelligence community somehow. Others are denying it. Well, I guess we'll find out in time, but he was able to go to Italy for that. I believe he also went to the Ukraine. The point is that he can go wherever he has to get evidence, and he can subpoena people. He can make them appear before him to answer questions, and he can convene a grand jury, and he can indict, and he can prosecute. So what is the conclusion that we can reach at this early point? And really the only conclusion that we can state with certainty is stay tuned. We'll just have to wait and see how it turns out. We'll have to see whether Durham ultimately indicts anybody, and if yes, whether there are guilty pleas, and if there are pleas of not guilty, then there would be a trial. We'll have to wait and see what happens. I'm especially interested in seeing how far up the chain it goes, and if anybody who is lower in the chain or lower on the ladder is prosecuted, whether any of those people will flip and provide information that would implicate people farther up the chain, perhaps even to President Obama. Well, as I just said, we'll all have to just stay tuned. And you can stay tuned for my next vlog, but as you're staying tuned, you could give me a thumbs up if you like this video, share it with anybody you think would also like it. Got any comments, put them in the comments section below the video. If there's a question you'd like me to answer, a topic you'd like me to cover, put that in the video. You can subscribe. I would love getting some more subscribers. And finally, come back and see me again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do, bye.